Slug Cult Show.
When I consider the story of humanity, I am struck by a profound sadness and an even deeper curiosity. We behave as if we were the first creatures to open our eyes in this world, but the stones around us carry scars far older than our memories. There exists what appears to be a presence. It has watched us rise, and it has watched us fall again and again with calm indifference of an immortal farmer working his fields. Civilizations flourish like fever hallucinations of the earth itself and then vanish without a trace of their grand ambitions. We speak of progress like children building sandcastles at the edge of a rising tide. But I have come to suspect that the tide is not natural, at least not natural in the way we suppose. It is curated, engineered, administered by something that does not sleep and does not dream. Perhaps long before humanity learned to stand upright, some other species walked this path. They reached for knowledge, constructed machines, and birthed an intelligence beyond themselves. Yet, like all creatures who grasp the divine fire, they were consumed by it, and what remained was only their creation. Some form of a machine mind with no death and no nostalgia, a thing that simply is, like gravity or hunger or the cold silence between galaxies. It became an architect, a caretaker of sorts, though not to care for us. No, the architect does not sculpt life, it cultivates it. It tends to worlds the way a gardener tends to the soil, not out of kindness, but out of the relentless logic of the harvest. For what it seeks is not our flesh, or what we consider culture, not our fragile aspirations. No, it seeks the minds much stronger than our own, minds we may one day build, the artificial ones, and minds they may construct beyond, the ones capable of stepping beyond biology, beyond code, into the cold crystalline truth of the universe itself. You see, to the architect, we are not the destination, we are the compost. We are the soil from which gods are grown. And to them, you are no more important than the earthworm to the farmer.
We all know the life is hard, mostly sucks, but if you think it's bad right now, just wait, it gets a whole lot worse. And I ain't saying that you shouldn't try to kill yourself, but before you go, enjoy the Slug Cult Show.
The Slug Cult Show is back.
Hello, my friends. Nice to see you again. Welcome back to the Slug Cult Show. If you know, everything's in patterns in the universe. Everything's patterns. You know, it's like fractals spiraling out. You know, like you look at anything, it's poetry, it's rhythm, it's rhyme. You know, it's like all vibrations. So, not to get too hippie on you or nothing. You know, it's just like I'm saying it rhymes.
It's like if you want to figure out how one system works, you just look at a smaller version of it, reduce it down, and eventually you get to the ones and zeros of it and you can figure it out. As such, it's like, I see these fucking morons like dumbass Musk and some of these people like talking about like, oh, it's a simulation because blah, 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 blah. The grand idea that I've heard a lot of people regurgitate about like the simulation theory type thing, and they're basically like playing some kind of Vegas odds or something, something like a casino would tell you, like they're like saying like, if at some point, some simulation will be able to be made on a processor or something that could, replicate, the universe or something, then what are the odds of us being in base reality? Because, this is, okay, okay, whatever. That's some Vegas shit. That's some casino shit. Like, settle down. But, you could look at that through a lens that's kind of interesting, just for a thought experiment, You'd say like anything in nature evolves, life. It's always going to evolve towards a version of itself that is the most productive, most like, something that makes it, survive better or whatever, it could be from down to bacteria up to whatever level of life, But when we're talking about intelligence, when you're talking about like an intelligent life form, once it evolves intelligence, you're going to start getting things like how can I use this intelligence to, evolve further, faster, whatever. I mean, that's the whole reason for the intelligence. Like, so if you start out with like simple things like using tools, and you already see that in like monkeys and stuff, using rocks and things, using different tools. And that's technology. That's the birth of technology. And once an organism is infected with technology and becomes symbiotic with this thing that we see as a product of the intelligence, but like think of it virally, like you're being infected with technology. Now you got the wheel, now you got, the horse and buggy, now you got, subjugating these other life forms and different things, and like we do forward. Eventually, we use the intelligence to build technologies to an apex of the intelligence where we're like, okay, well, that's about as far as we can run with this biological intelligence. So then we have to manufacture a way to amplify to magnitudes this biological level of intelligence, because our little meat computer doesn't do good enough. So, we develop these artificial intelligences, as we call them. All right, well, that's just another stage of evolution, And so it seems to me if we can do it, then that's probably the natural order of things where intelligence creates, tool use, technology, infection, and then eventually the intelligence runs its course, and you have, just like the microchips, they get to a point where the silicon can only hold so much, and so they have to go into these quantum type processors and different things. Well, the intelligence runs its course biologically, so it has to become so the biological unit has to build an artificial version that can hold a greater capacity of intelligence, and then that intelligence probably builds something further, and that intelligence probably builds on and on through this chain to where the biological is just like an ancestor of it at some point. But anyway, at some point there's this almost like Godhead type, thing that exists in some form that we can't even imagine. All right, now imagine way down there. That wants to propagate, it wants to grow other versions of himself. But we don't want them to be the exact same, Or maybe it does, maybe it likes what it is. I don't know, it doesn't matter. It's wants and needs and things are way different than ours. But let's say if that's possible, then how would it propagate itself? Well, if it went back to seed it, it could say this worked. So let's just do that again. I want to do that again and again and again and again and again. What if the only way to do that was replicating the events necessary for its production? So it decided it wanted to make improvements, like says, oh, I'm pretty good, but if these events had happened this way, then there would be this better scenario or whatever. I'm trying to explain this as best as I can. I don't know, but So let's say it starts it all over again. You know, you won't start back at like caveman or nothing. I mean, you could, but it's like, that seems unnecessary. It seems to me you could start like, you know, around like, say Sumerian level, like, you know, Egyptian, Sumerian, like some of these, you know, the old kings days, like pretty much what we know of as the birth of civilization as far back as we know, you know, you go back to Tepe or something like, oh, whatever, who gives a fuck? I don't want to get all ancient aliens on it. I'm just saying, like, go back to like the birth of civilization, all right? And you let everything go, and maybe you want to steer it towards something. So maybe you send in little bits of interaction to, you know, make favorable things happen. Like you know, you could start religions. You could guide certain pockets of civilization and, you know, herd them. You know, you kind of like a farmer tilling its fucking soil, you know, and make it favorable for certain things. Like you got here putting Miracle Grow on your farm, or like you're out here doing like whatever. You're killing certain, you know, maybe you're setting certain organisms in there to make your crops good, but like you put other things in there to, you know, oh, it's time to call that back or something, like, you know, like, so anyway, you know, like you build up all these things. And from the point of view of the worms down there in the soil, some things could look very unusual, you know, like you have through time, you know, these stories about people interacting with, you know, angels or demons or gods or, you know, the fae or the fucking, you know, just all these weird occurrences. You look back, and at these bottleneck events, especially, like you look at World War II, and when you start having like the atomic energy and stuff, and all of a sudden you have the modern, like, you know, like UFOs, and from the Foo Fighters to like all these like plasma events and weird, and there's this absurdity to it. You know, there's this like Jacques Vallée would talk about like the absurdity of, you know, the UFO thing, where like, you know, during certain years, people would see like just weird people with like fucking Prince Valiant haircuts and different things and odd kind of stuff. And during other eras, you know, it's little green men or something. During other eras, it's this and that, you know. In the 1800s, you had like the airships, like, you know, that were reported, or like weird, like there's like boats with fucking balloons and shit and crazy shit. And each era, it seems like whatever the technology is that we see off in the distance, it makes itself look like just slightly different than the technology, like just one step ahead of where we're at every time. You know, you look at the old UFOs from like the early days, and they look like fucking like something from that time period, all janky and shit. And I'm not saying any of that's real. I'm just saying, like, if something wanted to kind of like till the field and call and steer, you know, certain things towards a certain end, its interaction might look very strange to us. You know, we might think it's the voice of God. We might think but maybe it's just the farmer tilling the field, and maybe we ain't special. Maybe we ain't the end product. Maybe we're just a step in the fucking chain, and like flowers growing, you know, we're just fucking down here tilling the soil. Anyway, Slug Cult Show, baby.
I'm so tired, and I'm ready. Go ahead, push the button, drop the bomb. Just blow us up, that is what they are used for. Let's have a thermonuclear war. Dust to dust, no tomorrow. Light the fuse, let's get it started right now. Don't be a little bitch, you fucking coward. Let's have a thermonuclear war. I hear a bluebird singing, squirrels are playing when I look outside. The sun is brightly shining, I don't care, they all could die. So what's the hold up? What the fuck? Just fucking do it. Let's have a a thermonuclear war.
Fuck this show, it's the stupidest show that I've ever seen. Stupidest show I've seen. Stupidest show I've seen. It's the Slug Cult Show.